way around, I found that on my computer, I cannot have the window minimized that I want to share. I have to have it completely open, which means I've got like 5 screens. Sorry about that. Okay, there we go. How's everybody doing tonight? Are you all feeling maybe a tad stressed? It is the last full week of the semester. Anybody here besides me feeling a little stressed? Raise your hand or give me a thumbs up if you're feeling a little stressed. Yeah, it is that time of year, isn't it? So I wanted to share with you guys, if I could, just a few little ideas for. I'm sorry, let me do one other thing. I'm going to move some things around so I can see your beautiful faces at the same time. I am trying to do a presentation. Okay, so what I want to talk about tonight is a little activity strategy for reducing end of semester stress. Now, while I give the introduction to this, I want each of you to pull out a piece of paper. Yes, I want you to go to your notepad, go across the room, get an old-fashioned sheet of paper and a pencil or pen writing implement. It could be a Crayola, I don't care. But I want an actual blank sheet of paper that you don't need to use for anything else for this activity. Now, I put on here, don't go nuts, because that is actually an acronym. Um, and what we're going to do tonight is figure out how to crack the nuts. So, for those of you who didn't grow up in the U.S., you may have not heard the reference of nuts to feeling like you're going crazy. So if I say I'm going nuts, it is another way of saying I feel like I've lost control. I have mental problems. I'm crazy, what have you. But in this instant, I want you to remember a way to not feel like you're going nuts is to use the word nut, N-U-T, as an acronym that means negative, unconscious thoughts. Okay, negative, a thought that is both negative and something that you may not really be conscious of. This term nut was proposed by Alicia Goldstein with the Center for Mindful Living. And following on this little acronym that Dr. Goldstein came up with, Judith Belmont with the Belmont Wellness Program came up with the 3 to 4 part program. I've kind of adjusted it a little bit, but she basically came up with the idea of cracking the nuts and throwing them and dealing with the nuts. So why do we not want nuts? These negative thoughts can lead to self-doubt and low self-esteem. When we doubt ourselves, it can cause a lot of anxiety in our lives. And that anxiety then adds to the stress we're feeling. So, what we do in order to get rid of the nuts, and I want you to take your piece of paper, and the first step in cracking the nuts is to name it. So I want you to take a minute and write down 1 or 2. And if you're a really quick person, you can do 3. I'm going to give you a minute or so to write down negative thoughts that come into your head. So I'll tell you one for me that I get up every morning and I look at my to-do list, and my negative thought is often, oh my goodness, I am not going to be able to do all these things today, and every one of them is important. Maybe you have a negative thought that says you're not good enough. Maybe you have a negative thought that pops in all the time that says that nobody loves you. Maybe you have a negative thought that's I'll never make a good grade, or I can't lose weight, or I just not disciplined enough to exercise. So think about what negative thoughts that you regularly have and write down one, two, or three of them. All right, has everybody had a chance to at least write down one? Okay, somebody share with me one negative thought that regularly pops into your head. Don't be embarrassed, we all have them. Oh, Blake, you unmuted. Do you have a negative thought?
Um, yeah, I just said one. Sometimes I'll wake up and just because my course load, I'll be like, I feel like I'm lazy just because I'm not constantly working. I've been trying to like deal with that more. I don't think I'm actually lazy, but I'll have that thought come in my head sometimes.
That's excellent. Yeah, absolutely. That's a very common one. Oh, Rhonda, you're so lazy. Blake, you're so lazy. Yeah, yeah. And it may not be about laziness at all. It may be something totally different. Somebody else tell me a negative thought that you regularly have pop into your head. Sean, how about you?
Um, I mean, I think one thought I'm sure we all share is that you don't deserve the position you're in, and that's not like just position like president or officer, but like kind of in life.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, Sean. They actually call that the imposter syndrome. There's actually a name for that one. Often we feel like we're imposters in our own lives, that we've gotten a position that we don't deserve, or that is we're not good enough for. That's great. Who else wants to share a negative thought that you sometimes have?
Um, I'm useless and I'm not needed.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, Elizabeth, that is a common one too. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Feeling that you're not needed, or that you have a feeling of just being useless. Absolutely. Okay. So that is the first step. Say it out loud. Don't let it just sit there and irritate the inside of your brain like a bunch of ants crawling around. Don't let it do that. Stop for a moment if you start feeling negativity in your system, and stop and say, okay, this is it. Write it down. That is the first step. Okay, the second step is to count it. Just like you would a handful of nuts, I want you to ask yourself, how many times per week do I have this negative thought? So for each one you wrote down, I want you to tell me how many times per week you think that thought. Okay. Who will share with me a negative thought and how many times per week they have it? How about Amishi? Amishi, how many times per week do you have a particular negative thought?
So the negative thought that I have is that people are gonna leave me, and that's because like whenever I have a fight with a friend or something, I feel like that, and I have that thought often.
How
And
many
the
times
other
per week would you say you have that thought?
times, a lot of times,
Like 2 or 5 or 20?
I'd say 3 times.
3 times per week. Okay,
Yeah.
very good. And that is another common thought, that we're going to be abandoned by people who love us. So don't feel unique by are feeling like, don't feel embarrassed by your thoughts, because these are all very common things that you're saying. Dua, give me a number. How many times per week do you have some thoughts?
I would say like maybe 3 or 4 times a week, I guess.
Okay, good deal. Anybody else want to share a number with me? Okay, well, you get how this works. So you've written it down, you've named it, you give it a few minutes to think about how many times per week am I having this thought. The next thing is to crack it. Now, what I mean by cracking the nut is to do a reality check. So I gave you an example of me. I get up in the morning and I look at this long to-do list and I think I'll never get all of this done. I just will never get it done. But I'll take a breath and I'll think for a minute, have I done this in the past? Yes, many times I've gotten everything done I needed to get done in the day. Am I an reasonably intelligent, reasonably efficient person? Yes, I am. I know I can do this. So giving yourself a reality check means looking at the negative thought, asking yourself how realistic that thought really is. Use some evidence based on your past to crack that nut, and then moving forward, saying something positive instead. So let me pause right here. I'm going to give you another 20 or 30 seconds, and I want you to think about each of those nuts you wrote down, and I want you to crack it. Do a reality check. Think about any evidence you have to support an opposite notion of that negative thought, and then write down something positive instead. Okay, does that make sense? Take a look at it. You're doing a reality check. Think of some evidence that would counter that negative thought, and then write down something positive instead. Okay, who will share with me a nut they just cracked, and what positive statement are you using to replace it? Anyone? How about you, RK?
Yeah, so like my negative thought is that like I guess in general I get very unmotivated to like just study or do homework because I'm kind of like I guess like what's the point of just trying, you know? And then I guess my reality check is that like I think about people and especially people who like I'm close to who don't even have like access to education or the ability to learn in a safe environment. And so I guess my positive thought from that is that education is really a gift that we all have, and just being able to learn in a safe environment and by so many great teachers kind of makes me more grounded and makes me motivated to really work hard in school.
That is awesome, RK. I love that. And I love that you said education is a gift, because many people in the world don't have an opportunity for higher education. One more, someone else share. Someone who hasn't shared so far. Isabella, will you share?
Yeah, I'll share. My negative thought was just that, you know, usually after I like finish my classes, I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna fail it. I'm gonna fail and flunk out of this school. But then my positive thought is, well, I'm not failing any of my classes right now, so it's probably not gonna happen.
That is excellent. Easy way to twist and turn it around. So the final step, this is the most fun part, y'all. Okay, the last step in cracking the nut is to toss it. So take that piece of paper, wad it up, and toss it away. Okay, this is fun. Wad that piece of paper up and throw it across the room. Yes. Okay. Why did I ask you to toss it across the room? Anyone?
Is it because there's no reason to think about it anymore?
Exactly. And here's the thing, Blake and everybody else, our minds follow our muscles. Do you know that if you smile, you actually, most people, if they smile for a couple of minutes, they report happier feelings. You would think it'd be the opposite, right? When I'm happy, I smile. But when you smile, you're happy. There's a lot of research that backs this up. So if you physically toss that away, I've even heard people say they're going to burn it. I'm not recommending burning because you could burn the house down, but throw it in a trash can, throw it away. Your mind follows your muscles. And by literally throwing that away, it helps you change your mental attitude. Okay, I won't take any more of your time tonight. I know we've got a lot to cover, but it's a real great way to think about not going nuts by cracking your nuts with 4 easy steps. Name them, count them, crack them, and toss them. All right, that's my tip of the week for you guys.
Thank you, Rhonda. That's right, everybody. Crack your nuts. Do it before your tests, because then your grades will thank you. Okay, share screen, screen 1, share computer sound, share. Okay, where did my agenda go? All right. So, Football 101 is tomorrow at 7 p.m. If you need to find the information, you can scroll down to the main page of ISA's website, or you can go to events and Football 101. And at this point, you don't, if RSVPing would just be for data, but this is where the Zoom link is at. And 7 p.m. CST. Okay. So all that is we're having Carrie Vance, the Traditions Council, and the Yell Leaders, and I mean, getting them to show up is kind of a hassle. So I don't think I need to explain the value of Football 101, but I'm going to be there, and y'all should be there too. And if you want to participate in the dry run, then stay afterwards. Do you want to say anything about Football 101, or can we move on?
Yes, come to Football 101. That's all.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to be a packed room, we anticipate, because of over the 100 people that have RSVP'd already. We can take a look. And we see over 163 people. So that's great. And we're excited for that. This is also the only event that we're having in the fall semester, because racism, like, that's not really an event, it's more of a project, and that kind of spans both semesters. But Football 101 is really the only one we're doing. So yeah. The other thing is, Fiza, do you want to remind everybody about the social next week? Maybe she stepped away. Okay. Well, next week on Saturday.
Hi. So,
Oh, she's here.
social next week, it's on Sunday, and it's a movie social.
Oh, yeah.
I think last week when I wasn't here, Rachel told me that the social is gonna be what people wanted to watch a Bollywood movie called Anjana Anjani, but I looked it over at Netflix and it wasn't there. So I was gonna talk to Sean about it, so to see where how can we like get the movie.
Yeah, I did buy it, or not buy, rent. So
Can
we
you
have
hear
it.
me?
Yeah, we have the movie. No worries there.
Wait, can I?
Can y'all hear me?
That's weird.
Fiza, we can hear
Yeah.
you.
I hear Fiza.
Sorry, what?
We can hear you, Fiza.
Okay, can you hear? Okay, just making sure. So that's basically it, and everybody. Well, I had a choice that people can have either study sessions or movie night, and it was pretty much. I think 7 people wanted movie night, and 6 people wanted study session. And I don't want like half of you to be there and half of you not to be there. So, do you guys want that we can have both? Like we can have a Zoom meeting where people are just like having a study session, and then we can have another Zoom meeting where people are watching the movie. Do you guys want to do that?
Let's see thumbs up.
I was gonna say, why don't we try just combining the two and just playing a movie while people study in the same room watching the movie together? We could we could do that, but
Can people study while watching a movie?
yeah, like in the background, if you wanted to study, you could still be there studying, but also have the movie on.
Because I know this is very close to finals, and that's what everybody wanted, which was weird. Because personally, I wouldn't want to be in a movie night that close to a final. So that's why I was having another option of a study night, if everybody can.
I like what Dev said actually in the chat, where he said in the same meeting with the movie, we could just do breakout rooms for study sessions
Oh
underneath.
yeah, we can do that. Okay, that's good. And Sean, what about the movie?
Hey, I have an idea. What if at the beginning of the session you had sort of a meet and greet where everybody, some kind of icebreaker activity where people could do something fun, introduce themselves, or I've seen people do like a show and tell, just pick something in the room and they talk about it and do that for like 10 minutes and then break out into the rooms and half of you do a social. The movie, and half of you just hang out and study and ask each other questions.
Okay, that sounds right to me. I'm the only concern is the movie. Like, how am I gonna get the movie? Because I don't know.
I figured that I could just be here and stream it, but just to double check, you said is it the 28th is Saturday and the 29th is Sunday?
Yeah.
So it's 29th on the Sunday?
Yeah.
At 7 or 8:30 p.m.? Okay, so 29th on the Sunday, 8:30 p.m., guys.
Let me double check that. Oh, sorry, it's 28th. It's
28th.
At 8:30, yeah.
Saturday, 28th. Okay.
And for the movie night, and now we're having both. I want everybody to be there, unlike the last social. Please be there.
Yeah, guys, this is also the last social. So, last social, last meeting, and we would appreciate y'all being there. Okay. So, with the fall semester ending, the execs and I and Rhonda as well have all been talking a lot about how we're going to do spring semester. The latest update I've heard, and Rhonda can add in on this if she likes, is that the university is planning to continue with the rules that they have currently. There's no plans to sort of back off on, for example, the restriction to limit events to 10 people. And what with the vaccine, even though we're hearing news about its development, we also have to take into account that it's probably going to go to people that need it more than us youngins first. So, for example, healthcare workers and older at-risk individuals. So the likelihood of us having mass vaccine distribution before spring semester ends, I'd say is objectively low. So as far as what we can expect and plan for, we've been trying to plan for an in-person event, but odds are kind of pointing towards online. All of that aside, though, we are still looking for people to co-chair the events on iWeek. And so for those of you who didn't know, since iWeek is a week-long event with an event every single day, there's 5 events, it takes a lot to run those. And since iWeek kind of falls under special events, it would be way too much for Dua and her committee alone to put on. So what we do is we have committee co-chairs. So that's 2 people that we both call co-chair per event, and they basically run the whole thing. And then you might be wondering, well, I've never been to this event, so how would I even run it? The main thing we want from you, or I guess the most important thing as to whether or not you can put on a successful event, has less to do with having prior experience, even though that helps. It's really just your energy and your ambition. We can fill in all of those gaps of knowledge. Myself, the execs, Rhonda, we can answer all your questions as to what we've done in the past. The Google Drive is full of answers to questions like that because the Google Drive has everything that we've done that we've used and made in the past, all the documents, all the forms, and so forth. So if you are at all interested in the events, which I'm sure a lot of you are, and if you are at all interested in taking on more responsibility and feeling more fulfilled and learning a lot of things about programming, since you're really going to be at the helm of whatever event it is you co-chair, let Dua know, let's say by Friday night. And we're actually, the execs and I, meeting on Sunday. And that's going to be one of the things we're going to be discussing in the 4-hour-long meeting we're going to have, is who we want to co-chair those events. Because you might say, oh, why don't you just wait till spring semester? Because spring semester, even though the iWeek is currently planned for the second week of March, so that's January, February, March, and we have 3 months kind of at the start of the semester, that time will fly by like nothing. It is insane how quickly we go from school starting to iWeek, because it's like, I don't know, the first few weeks kind of blend into signing up for classes, getting situated, getting in the groove, and then you're kind of catching up after getting into the groove, and then you have tests, and all of that meshes into about a month that feels like a week or a day. So we are really trying to be conscientious and deliberate in planning ahead and getting a lot of these decisions made prior to break. So let us know if you're interested, just a general interest, and we can work from there. But let her know, let Dua know. I'll put her email in right now. Yeah, let her know, or you can message her on WhatsApp, at her in the group chat or anything by Friday, or you can let me know as well. Either one works. And then aside from that, in terms of what we want to do in spring, dance night and anything else is all to be decided. And we have no idea whether or not we want to, whether or not we can, whatever is feasible, we'll have to see closer to that. But iWeek, we want to do that whether or not it's online or in person. Online comedy show, yeah, we could maybe do that. I was looking into how much it would cost to get Dave Chappelle, and it seemed really expensive, but I don't know. I'm still hopeful that maybe if we reach out to him in some honest and genuine and email, that he'll consider it. But I don't know. It's A&M, so we'll see. Okay, so that covers the announcements and the material. Is everybody knows when the movie night is, right? Movie night / study. Thumbs up. Everybody knows? Okay. Everybody knows when Football 101 is? You better. Yeah. Everybody's going to show up to Football 101? I'm seeing some ehs. Okay. Well, that's all I think it is. My execs, am I missing anything? Are there any announcements my execs want to make? Is there any?
Someone from the outreach team here to talk about the meetings they've been having? I've been very impressed with what they've been doing.
RK or Isabella want to take that one up?
Yeah, so I mean, just like over the past couple of weeks, different members of outreach have been reaching out to other orgs, just trying to get to know them, you know, beyond just like professional people, but just as like, you know, students and people we can talk to. And it's been really cool, actually. I've heard from a couple of them that they really enjoyed having those one-on-one meetings because it helps them get closer to other organizations. And also it's just nice to talk to other people during these times. And I think it's been going really well.
Well, kudos to the outreach team for a great job. And I also want to say kudos to the marketing team for getting 150 something people to the event. That's pretty awesome. And kudos to Sean for sending the email that got you guys 100 football tickets. So you guys are rocking it this week. I'm telling you, I am just so proud and so impressed with this officer team and what all you've been accomplishing. Great, fantastic work, people.
Yeah, thank you guys. You know, I all I do is sit in my chair and stare at the Gmail screen, criticizing words that I type. So it's you guys do the real heavy lifting, and I appreciate it. Does anybody have any other comments or general comments? How they think these meetings are going? I'm just gonna kind of talk slowly here so you can unmute and interject and say something about how your day is going. And how
Sean, we talked earlier about you sharing about the commission.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that it's finally wrapping up. I know some people know about you being on the President's Commission, but not everybody. Can you share just in a couple of minutes the goal of the commission and your role there and what you guys wrapped up this week?
Yeah, so in response to racial tensions that have gone across this country, A&M established the Commission on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, which, so you read that and you think, okay, it's like, what about it? Well, it seems to be, as the name would imply, an issue with diversity, equity, and inclusion on campus. And the committee is meant to address that by looking at how they're doing in community engagement, analyzing data and the policies that are currently in place, analyzing A&M's values and missions and how they kind of coexist, and then also analyzing campus culture and climate and using all of that analysis to reach a conclusion as to what needs to be done. So in short, basically, what's the problem and how do we fix it? I was one of a few student leaders, and it's like there wasn't anybody from chess club there or something. There was like president of student government, president. I don't even think the president of the MSC was a part of this commission at all. But myself, president of ISA, president of BSAC, and a few other people, but just a handful. And I was in the Values and Mission Subcommittee. And do y'all want to hear like a brief summary on kind of what we found and what we submitted? So essentially, there were three problems we split it up into. The first of which was that A&M has a respect issue, and that's kind of putting it softly for, people are racist on campus. Because if you break it down to its fundamentals, it's an issue of respect. I mean, you can tie in a bunch of elements into there, but that's out of RELIS, and the easiest way to tie it to values and mission, which is what we had to do for in explaining any problem that we defined. Respect was the one that we wanted to focus on. And kind of the reason for why there's a respect issue was mainly A&M really doesn't do anything to define it. So if you go to TAMU's like core values and you go to this page, it just sort of says excellence and some quotes that kind of relate to excellence, and the same for all of the rest. There's no concrete definition. There's no extenuating examples. And there's no, it's like, what is this? This is not enough. So that's basically the first problem. And a few others have to do with, for example, Black students graduate, or Black undergraduate students graduate 20% less than every other ethnicity. And compared to the graduation rates of Black students at our peer universities, which would be universities that are about the same size and have the same land grant mission, which is this categorization given to universities that reach a certain size and are sort of given a mission to serve the land around them. So in other words, to serve Texas. So if you're a land grant university, you're expected to serve the primary population of your state. And so in other words, our student body should reflect to a great extent the population of Texas, which it actually didn't really do that well. We need, if you were to use that as a basis for analysis, then the conclusion is that you need a more diverse student body, which was one of the conclusions I really tried to advocate for. Anyways, there is an excellence issue there with Black students seemingly dropping out more. And those three kind of sum up what we were submitting to the administration, was that there was a respect issue, and there's a multitude of reasons for this, and that there was an issue with Black students graduating less. And then also, what was that last one? I know those kind of capture it. But that's what I've been doing, just so y'all know, these past entire semester. Every week I've had to meet up, sometimes twice, with the subcommittee and the commission and argue, and I'm going to be a little bit frank here, with a bunch of heterosexual white males and a few ethnic students on what's important and what needs to be said. And you know, these were really all former students and current students that made up the subcommittee, and a lot of the former students were just a bunch of white people. I mean, not all of them were bad, of course, but it felt like an uphill battle. I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but that's mostly what I've been doing, aside from the monthly MSc Board of Director meetings and monthly Student Leadership Council government meetings. And in a sense, that's kind of what ISA has been probably most known for, at least on the presidential side of things. So if you hear about this commission or a decision or an email that goes out about this, you can stay confident that I was there and that I spoke. So yeah, does anybody have any questions about that? Or maybe they're fine not knowing all the details.
Thank you, Sean. I just wanted your team to know what you do outside of this meeting. Sean does have a lot of other requirements, and he was being very generous saying you guys do all the work, which you do a lot of work, but Sean does a lot of behind the scenes things. And I just wanted you to have a little bit of taste of just one commission that he's on. He's actually, as he alluded to, on several boards and things that represent you all and represent international students in general. But thanks for sharing that, Sean. I didn't want to tie up the meeting too much. I know Dua is anxious to get on with her dry run of Football 101, but thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I ask something real quick, Sean? Because I'm kind of curious. Did you guys
Yep.
all bring up the actual tweets that started this whole issue? Like some of the actual stories that came out, you know, the awful things that we're having to do where people said hate is a hidden core value. Did you guys end up like having to dive into those at all?
Mission and values didn't. I imagine data and policies would have. They didn't bring it up in front of us in the full committee meetings. But I dare even say that they might not have like brought those instant examples up in the data and policies. I wouldn't know though.
Okay, thank you. I was just
I would
curious because some of those examples completely shocked me when I read them. I couldn't believe it, but that's because I'm, as you said, a heterosexual white male, so I don't really experience that. But I can't believe some of the stuff that I read. So I was just curious if they actually mentioned it at all.
Yeah.
Like they may have talked more about it in the campus climate subcommittee because I know they were looking at a lot of both survey data as well as sort of testimonial kinds of things from individuals. But that's a good question.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure people's voices were actually heard and like at least some of the actual individual students. Like, of course, it's really great having you on there, Sean, of course, for ISA and then other obviously diversity committees, but it's nice to actually hear like individual students getting their voice for their stories that they've told. Thank you.
Yeah. So actually, we had what they called listening sessions, and for those, we had one for former students and current students, and we just invited people to join this Zoom call, and we all broke out into rooms, and we asked them a set number of questions that all had to do with how they felt about the climate, there were keywords in the questions that kind of dug into that. And also there, like one of the questions, for example, asked how people felt about the Saul Ross statue. And I can say an overwhelming, if not all of the students felt either fine with removing it or they wanted it removed or they wanted it destroyed. And I can say like a lot of the former students, and again, a lot of the former students were heterosexual white males. They either had no issue with it. It's like they didn't really see the problem with it to begin with, or they wanted it to stay because of all these reasons. And I don't want to get political or anything, you know. And then after all, I'm just, while I am Hispanic, you just look at me and you think Asian, and Asians don't go through the same things that a lot of African Americans go through, especially at A&M's campus. So it was hard for me to argue for them as an Asian, even though it's kind of like I had to and wanted to, of course. But yeah, we did listen to a lot of student opinions, and our inputs as students were asked for a lot. So I imagine in the other subcommittee meetings, it was the same way. Because you still had a lot of good people that cared for the truth and to not mince words so much that nothing got done. So I'm hopeful that there's lasting change because of it.
That's great to hear. Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah. Is anybody else concerned? Have reservations? Worried? Okay, so I think that's enough of the meeting. I don't know where that tab went, but that pretty much sums it up, guys. Once again, or actually really quick before, am I forgetting anything? Dua, Elizabeth, Rhonda, Luis, Visa, Isabella, Antonio, RK, Veronica, Harris, Linny, Dev, Blake. Okay. Yeah. If you have to leave now, we're going to go into the dry run. I'll adjourn the meeting now at 7:49. Thank you guys for coming. It's nice to see y'all's faces for those that turned on your camera. And if you need anything, you can reach out to me. If you have a flat tire on 290, maybe I can't help you, but maybe I can. So anything at all. Anything to distract me from the coursework that I have to do, because that's exactly why I joined ISA, to distract myself. Okay, so if y'all are staying, we'll get started really quickly here in a minute. Bye, RK. Bye, everyone else that's leaving. All right, so Dua, do you want to go ahead and take it away?
Yeah, isn't Purva gonna come? I think she said she was gonna come. She's the MC, so she was gonna start with her